Have you ever stopped to think about what you're really doing when you pray? I'm not asking if you do it often or rarely, whether you use memorized words or pray in silence. I'm asking if you truly know what it means to pray. Because sometimes, without realizing it, we turn prayer into an empty habit, a mechanical murmur, a tradition we've inherited but no longer nourish. And that's not just a mistake. It's a deep loss. Prayer is not a duty to fulfill or a pious routine. Prayer is an encounter with God. It's opening the door of your soul and saying, "Here I am, Lord. I don't offer perfection, but I offer truth. I'm with you, even when I don't know how to begin." Prayer is not a task. It's not a checkbox on your daily list of things to do. If it becomes that, it loses its life. And once it loses life, it loses its power. God doesn't need you to speak to Him in formulas if your heart is somewhere else. He doesn't need words. He needs your sincerity. Prayer is an act of humility. It places you before the one who is greater than you, but who loves you with absolute closeness. It is also an act of trust. You dare to show Him your inner world just as it is, with its light and its shadows, with no pretending. But there's something many forget, or don't even consider. Your body prays too. Yes, even in silence, your body speaks. What you do with it while you pray says a lot about what's happening inside. Standing in prayer, sitting attentively, kneeling, raising your hands. These are all ways the body participates in this encounter with God. And although God doesn't demand a perfect posture, He does deserve an authentic disposition. Because when you pray lying down, without strength or intention, half asleep, you're sending a message. Not with your words, but with your attitude. You're saying that God can wait while you rest. That your conversation with Him adjusts to your rhythms, not the other way around. That He's not important enough for you to get up, to offer Him your body, not just a tired mind. We see this again and again in Scripture. Jesus, in Gethsemane, falls to the ground and pleads. He doesn't lie back like someone settling into bed. He kneels, he sweats blood, he gives himself entirely. Moses, with his arms raised while the people fight, knows that his gesture has power because it is joined to his prayer. The Psalms, which are a school of prayer, are full of gestures. I fall before you, I lift up my hands, I bow my knees. These aren't random details. They are real expressions of a living faith. Your body, when it prays, can help awaken your soul, or it can drag it into distraction. How do you pray? This is not about adopting rigid or artificial postures. God doesn't want you to fake devotion, but He does call you to be fully present. When you sit with someone you love, you don't do it carelessly. You choose the moment, you set other things aside, you look at them with attention. Why should it be any different with God? If you only remember Him when you're already in bed, turning off the lights, repeating words with your eyes closing, then your prayer isn't a dialogue, it's a farewell. It's a whisper that says, "Lord, I'm tired, but here's what I've got left." Doesn't the God who gives you life every day deserve more? Posture in prayer is not a superficial issue. It's a visible sign of what's happening inside. I'm not saying you should never pray lying down. There are moments of illness, of real exhaustion, when the soul seeks comfort even in physical weakness. God is there too. But if it becomes your habit, if you do it out of laziness or lack of discipline, then you need to ask yourself, am I really seeking God or just trying to ease my conscience? Prayer requires presence. It's a spiritual act, but also a human one, a total one. We cannot reduce it to memorized phrases said with discouragement, or to gestures that ask nothing of us. If you pray with sincerity, if you bring both your body and your soul into that moment, then your prayer has strength. God doesn't measure your words. He measures your offering. And that offering begins with your decision to get up, to seek a quiet space, to light a candle if you need to look toward heaven even if you can't see it. Because God sees you. Why is it not advisable to pray while lying down? Let me be clear. This isn't about a moral rule or a magical formula. Praying while lying down is not a sin. The issue lies elsewhere, and it runs much deeper. The way you pray says a lot about your inner disposition. Making it a habit to pray lying down reflects more than just a physical posture. It reveals a relationship with God that may have been weakened by routine, by lack of attention, or by a fatigue that goes beyond the body, a fatigue that reaches the soul. God is your creator, your father, your faithful companion. He is not a distant spectator or a cultural symbol. So why treat him like a shadow at the end of your day, when you have no energy or focus left? Why give him only the leftover minutes, the blurred thoughts before you drift off to sleep? If you say you love him, if you say you believe in him, then why not show it with a basic gesture of presence and intention? Praying while lying down brings three main risks that I ask you to reflect on honestly. The first is the most obvious: distraction. When you're lying down, your body shifts into rest mode. Your mind wanders, your thoughts blur, sleep sneaks in. How many times have you started to pray in bed and didn't finish because you fell asleep? Falling asleep with God in your heart isn't wrong. But using prayer as a kind of spiritual sleeping pill is. Saying, "I'll pray to relax," is not the same as saying, "I'll pray to be with God." It's not the same. The second risk is subtler, but just as dangerous: superficiality. Prayer, when done without focus, loses depth. You get used to saying words without living them, repeating phrases without thinking. And when that happens, your relationship with God turns formal, cold, almost decorative. It doesn't change your life. It doesn't transform you. It doesn't move you. And prayer that doesn't move the heart becomes nothing more than noise. The third risk is even more serious: losing the sense of the sacred. If you pray lying down like you scroll through your phone or watch TV, little by little your soul forgets that it's standing before something immense. You forget that speaking to God is sacred, not something casual. You lose the sense of wonder. You lose reverence. You lose the inner fire. And without fire, faith fades. This isn't about perfect posture or spiritual techniques. This is about love, about commitment, about reverence. No one shows up to an important meeting in pajamas. No one greets someone they love with indifference. So why treat God with less care than you show to people on the street? If you truly believe he listens, then treat him like someone real. Get up. Make room for him in your day. Show up with attention, not apathy. Someone might say, "But I also think about God when I'm lying down. Doesn't that count?" And yes, of course it counts. God sees even the sigh of the most exhausted heart. But this isn't about what God tolerates out of love. It's about what you choose to offer out of conviction. It's not about doing the bare minimum just to quiet your conscience. It's about giving your very best to the one who loves you without limits. Faith doesn't grow in laziness. The soul doesn't mature when you let it follow the body's comfort. Sometimes, all it takes is one small decision: to get up, to sit with intention, to keep silent, to gaze at the crucifix, and everything begins to shift. Not because the gesture itself has power, but because you give it power through your sincerity. To truly pray requires awareness, and that includes your body. If you pray like someone flopping into bed, you're saying to God, "This is all I have the energy to give." But if that becomes a habit, if every night prayer becomes a tired ritual before sleep, then you've stopped seeking God. You're just including him out of obligation. God doesn't need you to be perfect, but he does ask that you be honest. If you're tired, tell him. If you can't go on, give that to him. But if you can make the effort to get up, to carve out 5 minutes for a true encounter, do it. Because in that inner battle, in that small sacrifice, something big is at stake. The truth of your faith. What should it look like? The posture of prayer. Look, this isn't about setting rigid rules or measuring your faith by the position of your body. But we can't ignore a fundamental truth. The way you pray, even physically, reveals what place God holds in your life. Posture isn't an accessory without meaning. It's a language. And that language speaks, even when you don't say a word. You know well that the body is an instrument that expresses what's going on inside you. When you're sad, your shoulders droop. When you're angry, your face hardens. When you're in love, your gestures soften. So, when you're before God, how is your body? Awake, attentive, collected, or relaxed, disengaged, half asleep? There isn't one single correct way to pray. There are many postures that are valid and deeply spiritual. You can pray standing, as a sign of respect and dignity. You can pray sitting, as long as you're focused and centered. You can pray kneeling, as a sign of humility and surrender. You can even pray while walking, like someone walking with God beside them. What matters isn't the outer posture, but the alignment between your body and your inner state. That alignment breaks when your posture says you're uninterested, when your body says, I don't really care about this moment. Yes, the Lord sees the heart, and He isn't scandalized if you're lying down. But you shouldn't settle for a bare minimum faith. God gave you a body, not to use it against your soul, but to put it at the service of love. That's why, when you pray, remember that your body is also invited to enter into communion. In fact, many times, the body can help the soul find its center. Sometimes all it takes is sitting upright, placing your feet firmly on the ground, breathing slowly, and everything within you begins to settle. Distraction fades, and awareness awakens. This is especially important at the beginning and end of your day. When morning comes, your body and mind are already setting the tone for what lies ahead. If you start the day with a quick prayer, muttered between yawns, still half lying down, you're already setting a lazy spiritual rhythm. But if you choose to get up, wash your face, find a quiet space, then you're saying, Lord, I want to begin this day with you, and here's how I show it. Your body joins that intention. And at the end of the day, when fatigue weighs you down and the bed calls your name, you have two options. You can give in and offer God nothing more than a sigh, or you can consciously offer Him your exhaustion. Sitting at the edge of your bed, in silence, maybe with a candle lit, saying something simple and true, Thank you, Lord. Here's my day, with its struggles and mistakes, but I give it to you. That small difference, which seems insignificant, transforms your prayer. It gives it soul. Real prayer is not comfortable. It's deep. It's not always easy, but it always bears fruit. And in a world that's fast, automatic, impersonal, to pray with your body awake, your heart attentive, and your attitude reverent is an act of spiritual resistance. It's a way of saying to the world, my relationship with God is not a task, it's my foundation. I'm not asking you to be a hero. I'm simply inviting you to be honest. If you're sick, exhausted, unable to do more, God accepts your prayer just as it is. But if you can get up, then do it. If you can prepare yourself, then do it. If you can offer Him more than a sleepy whisper, give Him that. Because every time you choose to pray with your body fully present, you're saying, Lord, I don't just believe in you, I value you. I wait for you. I offer you the best I have, even if it's small. Praying while lying down, if it becomes a habit, drains your spirit. It slowly empties you of fervor without you realizing it. But praying with intention, with body and soul united, restores the dignity of a child who stands before their father. Not like someone checking off a list, but like someone coming home. Practical tips for a more vibrant prayer life. Now that you understand prayer isn't just a spiritual activity but a total act that involves your mind, soul, and body, it's time to ask yourself, what can you do to make your prayer more alive, more real, more fruitful? Because it's not just about correcting your posture, it's about awakening your heart, building a habit that nourishes your faith and sustains you in daily life. Prayer doesn't just happen. Prayer is also something you prepare for, something you care for, something you choose. The first key is to prepare the space and the moment. You don't need a chapel at home or a perfect little prayer corner, but you do need intention. Find a place where you can be in silence, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Don't let yourself be distracted by screens, notifications, or outside noise. Sometimes all it takes is turning off the lights, lighting a candle, sitting up straight, and placing a cross in front of you. That small gesture is already prayer. Because when you make room for God in the place where you live, you're also making room for Him inside you. And believe me, that changes everything. Pick a time. Set a moment. Prayer done only when I have time rarely becomes consistent. If you wait to feel like it, or for the perfect silence, or for everything to be just right, chances are you'll never pray. But if you make prayer a daily appointment, like meeting someone important, little by little, that routine becomes a refuge. And more than that, it becomes a source of strength, clarity, and comfort. Prayer isn't always exciting, but it's always necessary. Even when you feel nothing, even when it seems like nothing's happening. If you pray faithfully, you're letting God shape you from the inside out. The second key is to use living words. Formulas are valuable. The Our Father, the Hail Mary, the Rosary, but they shouldn't become empty repetition. If you pray the Our Father like someone reading a random text, you're missing the chance to encounter the God behind those words. Pause. Breathe. Listen to what you're saying. Thy will be done is not just another line, it's surrender. Forgive us our trespasses isn't a routine phrase, it's a plea. Let every word run through you. Don't let them stay on your lips. Let them reach your soul. You can also speak to God with your own words. You don't need to be a poet or a theologian. You just need to be sincere. Tell Him how you're doing. Tell Him what you're afraid of. Tell Him what you're thankful for. Speak to Him like a father who knows you and is waiting for you. The most powerful prayer isn't the longest or the most elegant. It's the truest. And sometimes, one honest sentence from the soul is worth more than 100 memorized phrases said without heart. The third key is to avoid lazy improvisation. Many people start off with good intentions but end up praying only when they have a free moment or when they're too tired to do anything else. And I understand. We live fast-paced lives full of demands. But that's exactly why we need prayer. Because if we don't pray, we run dry. If we don't pray, we grow hard. Prayer isn't a spiritual luxury. It's nourishment. And no one is nourished properly by eating whatever, whenever, however. The soul needs solid food. And prayer is that food. So make a plan. Even a simple one. 5 minutes in the morning to give thanks and ask for clarity. 5 minutes at night to review your day and rest in God. Don't demand the impossible from yourself, but don't settle for half-hearted prayer either. If you make space for God with discipline, He will make space in you for peace, patience, discernment, and true joy. And you're not alone in this. Many men and women of faith have walked the same road. They too struggled with fatigue, dryness, distraction. But they chose to pray. They chose to take that step. And that's why their faith grew. Because prayer isn't just a way to speak to God. It's a way to let Him speak in you, shape you, and transform you from within. Choose to pray with your heart. Choose to pray with your body. Choose to pray with awareness. And don't wait until you feel perfect to begin. God isn't asking for immediate results. He's asking for your presence. He's asking for your sincerity. And that you already have in your hands. You know what it's like to look at someone and see whether they're truly present. If their body is there, but their mind is somewhere else. The same happens in prayer. God, who knows you deeply, doesn't need you to show up wearing masks or disguises. But He does long to meet you, for real. He wants to see you there, in that sacred moment you choose to speak to Him, not as another task to check off, but as an act of love. And you, who are seeking a life of meaning, also need to return to that well where inner strength is renewed, where the soul finds rest, where true peace begins. Throughout my journey as a pastor, I've seen many simple people pray with a depth that moves the heart. People who perhaps don't know how to recite long prayers, who never studied theology, but who know how to kneel in silence and say to the Lord, "Here I am. I need you." That gesture, that disposition, is more powerful than any sermon. Because authentic prayer isn't measured by form, it's measured by truth. And the truth of prayer is revealed in the consistency between what you say, what you do, and how you live. I've seen farmers kneel before a wooden altar at dawn. I've seen mothers light a candle in the kitchen as they speak to God about their children. I've seen young people close their eyes in the middle of noise and seek the Lord in their hearts. Those gestures hold eternal value, because when you truly pray, with your whole being, you are joining Christ, who also prayed that way, with a torn heart, with his body surrendered, with his will completely open to the Father. That's why I speak to you today with conviction. Don't let prayer become just a habit. Don't turn it into a day's end farewell, whispered from bed. Don't fool yourself into thinking it's the same, because it's not. Prayer is not meant to soothe your conscience. It's meant to renew your soul. And for that, you need presence, decision, surrender. Let me say it plainly. Wake up. Not just physically, spiritually. Step out of the lukewarmness that leads you to pray half-heartedly, that turns your words into routine, that turns your dialogue with God into a fireless habit. Remember who you're speaking to. Remember what it means to stand before the Creator of the universe, the God who became man for you, who died for you, who waits for you each day in the silence to renew your heart. Making a habit of praying while lying down is a sign that something inside has fallen asleep. And today, in the name of the Lord, I invite you to get up again, to recover your sense of awe, to rise, to sit with intention, to kneel if you can, and to say to God with your body and your soul, "Here I am, Lord, I want to be with you." Because if you do, everything will begin to change. Maybe slowly, without fireworks, without overwhelming emotions, but it will change. Because God is never outdone in generosity. He always responds to those who seek Him in truth. Don't be afraid to start again. Even if your prayer life has been sleepy, superficial, distracted, today you can wake up. And every day, even when you fall, you can begin again. God doesn't demand perfection, but He does wait for you with truth. And if you seek Him with a sincere heart, with a willing body and an open soul, you'll discover that prayer isn't a task. It's an encounter. It's not an obligation. It's a gift. It's not a burden. It's a grace. Pray like someone who loves. Pray like someone who believes. Pray like someone who needs to breathe in order to keep living. Because that's what prayer is, the breath of the soul. I invite you to make a concrete decision. Nothing complicated. Nothing you can't carry out with honesty. Choose a fixed time. It could be morning or evening, and commit to praying at that time with intention. Not lying down, not half-heartedly, but with your body present, your mind alert, and your heart open. You can sit in silence. You can say a short prayer. You can speak a single phrase of faith. Lord, here I am. But do it. Don't wait to get it perfect. Just start. At the same time, take a moment to reflect on how you've been praying lately. Ask yourself sincerely, do I come before God with reverence? Or do I let myself be carried along by comfort, by hurry, by routine? Don't blame yourself if you find weaknesses. But don't settle either. God is calling you to more, because you were made for more. Not for a lukewarm, sleepy faith, but for a living, strong, radiant relationship. A serious prayer life is not heavy or solemn. It is prayer that is full of truth, full of surrender, full of a desire to meet the God who loves you. Maybe you think this change is small, that it won't have much of an impact. But that's not true. In the spiritual life, it's the small, faithful decisions that shape the soul. When you decide to pray well, even just 5 minutes, you are saying, God, you are my priority. And that gesture, that choice, brings order to chaos. It brings light into the noise. It gives you direction when you feel lost. I want to leave you with this image. Every time you pray with reverence, even alone in your room, even when no one sees, you are uniting yourself to the same Jesus who prayed in the silence of the early morning, who withdrew to the mountain, who knelt in Gethsemane, who sighed to the Father from the cross. You are entering His same stream of love. You are touching heaven. So don't put it off until tomorrow. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start today. Start now. Light a candle. Sit down with a quiet heart. Embrace the silence. And say to the Lord, "Teach me to pray. Help me give you my best. Wake me up inside. Here I am." That simple but complete prayer can change your life.